Welcome to Educon. In this session, we will discuss about diversity in the living world. In earlier session, we discuss about what is living and what is the defining characteristic of living beings. Coming to this section, if you look around you, we will see a large variety of living organisms, be it potted plants, insects, birds, pets, and or other animals, and also plants. There are also several other organisms that you cannot see with your naked eye, but they are all around you. For example, when you just look around your home and wherever the place you are sitting, you'll see a lot of animals, plants, birds, insects, all these things. And also there are certain microorganisms you cannot see with your naked eye. If you were to increase the area that you make observation, for example, now we are sitting at home, so from here only we have a specific area where we can observe. The range and the variety of organisms also differ. For example, if you go to dense forest, you would properly see much greater number and kinds of living organisms. In forest, you will see lot of animals, plant species, different organisms. Whereas in your home or any place you are sitting, you cannot see, the organisms around you will be far less compared to forest. So obviously, you are to visit a dense forest, you would probably see a much greater number and kinds of living organisms in it. Each different kind of plant, animal, or organism that you see represent a species, and the number of species that are known and described range between 1.7 to 1.8 billion. K5. This might be an important line to remember. The number of species that are known and described range between 1.7 to 1.8 billion. This refers to biodiversity. Biodiversity means different living organisms which is present on Earth. We should remember here that as we explore new areas and even old ones, new organisms are continuously being identified. Still, you will be seeing in the news that certain microorganisms, the scientists found out, certain microorganisms in snow, and a new plant species has been discovered by another scientist. So this all comes to your news feed daily. So you will be seeing in news. As stated earlier, there are millions of plants and animals in the world. We know the plants and animals in our own area by their local names. So for example, in my house there is a plant that is neem. So this is a local name for that. The local names would vary from place to place. Okay? The local name, it varies from place to place, even within a country. For example, we are living in India, the same tree can be called with different name in different states because of language. Properly, you would recognize the confusion that would be created if we did not find ways and means to talk to each other to refer to our organisms we are talking about. For example, you cannot communicate the local word where you are living. For example, I am living in some state, the local language is some Telugu or Tamil, like that. So for a particular plant there will be a specific name. If you go to Orissa or other UP or Madhya Pradesh, in certain states the name will be different the name will be in the local language. So because it is confusing, so how can we solve this problem? So we can standardize the names by having a single name throughout the world. That is the importance of this section. Hence, there is need to standardize the naming of living organisms such that a particular organism is known by the same name all over the world, and this process is called nomenclature. Okay, now you understand. So different area, they have a different language. In their languages they have different names for the same species throughout the world. So to overcome the problem, so we need to identify and standardize the naming system of living organisms by naming in a proper way where it can be called by the same name throughout the world, and this process is called nomenclature. Obviously, nomenclature or naming is only possible when the organism is described correctly. And we know to what organism the name is attached to. This is called identify. Before naming, what we need to do? Identifying the organism. So you can't give some different name to the tree or animal or any other organism. So first we need to identify that. So after identification, we propose a name for that particular organism. In order to facilitate the study, number of scientists have established procedures to assign a scientific name to each known organism. This is acceptable to all biologists throughout the world. For plants, scientific names are based on agreed principle and criteria. Okay? For plants, scientific names are based on agreed principles and criteria, which are provided by International Code for Botanical Nomenclature, that is called ICBN for plants. Okay, remember, scientific names are based on agreed principles and criteria and provided by International Code for Botanical Nomenclature. And for the animals, it is the name is given by International Code of Zoological Nomenclature. So it is for plants it is ICBN, for animals it is ICGN. The scientific names ensure that each organism has only one name. Now, for example, as I said that local names they differ from one place to another place. So here, the scientific name ensures that a particular organism has only one name throughout the world. Even you go to Japan or US or India or any other country, the scientific name will be the same. The description of any organism should enable the people to arrive at the same name. Okay, the description of any organism should enable the people in any part of the world to arrive at the same name. They also ensure that such a name has not been used for any other known organism. While giving name, we need to make sure we need to identify, okay, and also what is the description of organism. We need to see that we need to describe that organism, and the name should not be used by any other organism. There should be a particular name when we are naming a plant or animal. Biologists follow universally accepted principles to provide scientific names to known organisms. Who follows? Biologists follow universally accepted. There is certain kind of principles, okay, which is given by ICBN and ICGN. Based on that organisms are named, and each name has two components: the generic name and the specific epithet. This system of providing a name with two components is called binomial nomenclature. The system of providing a name with two components. What are the two components? Generic name and the specific epithet. Then it is called binomial nomenclature. This naming system given by Carolus Linnaeus. Here around 4 to 5 sentences are very important. Okay, as I said before that in NEET the questions will be very easy. For example, for 100 questions, consider 100%, 5 to 10% will be very easy. In that category, these questions will come. Like who proposed the binomial nomenclature, who proposed the system, binomial nomenclature, like that. So it is Carolus Linnaeus, and binomial nomenclature consists of generic name and the specific epithet. Okay, these are some important lines for easy category, you can say. This name, coming to the section again, this naming system, what is that naming system? Binomial nomenclature was system given by Carolus Linnaeus, is being practiced by biologists all over the world. Okay, same system is being followed throughout the world. The naming system using a two-word format was found convenient, of course, because it is very easy to remember also. Let us take example of mango to understand the way of providing scientific names better. So here, what is the scientific name of mango is, it's written as Magnifera indica. Here, Magnifera is a generic name, whereas indica is a specific epithet. In this name, as I told you, in this name, Magnifera represents the genus, while indica is a particular species, that is specific epithet. Other universal rules of nomenclature are as follows. There are certain rules to follow when naming the organism. Biological names are generally in Latin and written in italics. Okay, they are Latinized or derived from Latin irrespective of their origin. They are Latinized or derived from Latin irrespective of their origin. The first word in the biological name represents the genus, while the second component denotes the specific epithet. Both the words in a biological name, when handwritten, are separately underlined, or printed in italics to indicate their Latin origin. First word denoting the genus starts with a capital letter, while the specific epithet starts with small letter. Genus will start with the capital letter, whereas the epithet starts with a small letter. It can be illustrated with the example of Magnifera indica. See, coming to this section, in this page, all these 4 lines are very important. So you may expect some hard questions from this section. But all these 4 lines, they are very much important. So here, questions may come like, which of the following sentence is correct? Find the true statement. Okay, and in that statement, in that 4 options, you'll be having this complete line will be there and the 2 lines will be there, but they will change the sequence. Like here, biological names are generally in Latin. They'll mention in place of Latin, they'll mention some other, and written in Latin like that they mention. So we need to make sure if you revise the subject properly and continuously, means the more you revise, the things you remember, it will help you in solving the problems. Name of the author appears after the specific epithet. So at the end of the biological name and is written in an abbreviated form. Here, Magnifera indica Lin. So Linnaeus is the scientist who first discovered that species. So his name will come at the end. It indicates that this species was first described by Linnaeus. Since it is nearly impossible to study all the living organisms, it is necessary to devise some means to make this possible. This process is called classification, because there are so many millions of living organisms throughout the world. So it is impossible to study all those living organisms. So it is necessary for us to devise certain means and also to make it possible. And the process is called classification. Classification, you classify the things in different orders. Classification is the process by which anything is grouped into convenient categories based on some easily observable characters. For example, we easily recognize groups such as plants or animals or dogs, cats or insects. The moment we use any of these terms, we associate certain characters with the organ in that group. For example, dog means we know how is the dog. Cat, like that. What image do you see when you think of a dog? Obviously, each one of us will see dogs and not cats. Now, if we want to think of Alsatians, we know what we are talking about. Similarly, suppose we were to say mammals, you would of course think of animals with external ears, body, hairs. Likewise, in plants, if we try to talk of wheat, the picture in each of our minds will be of wheat plant, not that of rice. And rice plants, animals, etc. Here, hence all these dogs, cats, mammals, wheat, rice plants, all these species are convenient categories we use to study organisms. The scientific term for these categories is taxa, and we'll discuss soon about this classification. Here you must recognize that taxa can indicate categories at different levels. Plants also form a taxa, wheat is also a taxa. Similarly, animals, mammals, dogs are all taxa, but you know that a dog is a mammal and mammals are animals. Therefore, animals, mammals and dogs represent taxa at different levels. Hence, based on characteristics, all living organisms can be classified into different taxa. This process of classification is taxonomy. External and internal structure along with structure of the cell, external and internal structure along with the structure of cell, development process and ecological information of organism are essential and form the basis of modern taxonomic studies. Okay? And hence characterization, identification, classification and nomenclature are the process that are basic to taxonomy. Remember, this line is also important. Taxonomy is not something new. Human beings have always been interested in knowing more and more about the various kinds of organism, particularly with reference to their own use. In early days, human beings needed to find sources for their basic needs of food, clothing and shelter. Hence, the earliest classifications were based on the uses of various organisms. Human beings were since long not only interested in knowing more about different kinds of organisms and their diversities, but also the relationships among them. And this branch of study was referred to as systematic. Before we study about the classification, nomenclature, taxonomy, all this. Now, human beings since long we are very much interested in know what is different organism and their relationship. And this study between the organism and the relationship between the humans, this branch of study was referred to as systematics. The word systematics is derived from Latin word systema, which means systematic arrangement of organism. Linnaeus used Systema Naturae as the title of his publication. The scope of systematics was later enlarged to include identification, nomenclature and classification. This line is also quite important. The scope of systematics was later enlarged to include identification, nomenclature and classification. Systematics takes into account evolutionary relationship between the organs. Okay, now coming to next section, and before going to the next section, after going to the video, please read the NCERT book. Okay, the more you revise, the more you remember, and also remember the underlined points, most important, because from these itself the most of the questions will arise. And please subscribe to my channel, and thank you.